Okay, so breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Show the volume is up. Okay. All right. So, welcome, Capricorn. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back. We're going to see what's going on for today. Today is January 20th. A lot of things happening out in the sky, and we're going to see how it reflects in the cards and what Spirit has to say about things. So if you've been here before, you know that I channel information. I do use the cards, but they just open windows to get messages. And I do what Spirit tells me to do. And sometimes it's for now, sometimes it brings up information from past weeks or months or something and how it's working into today. But also, information will show up about what's coming up. So you'll see how it all works. If you like what you hear, see, etc., click like, subscribe, share. This is for Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising. So if you know your moon sign and your rising sign, maybe check that out and see if that resonates more for you. So let's see what's going to happen for today. All right. Let's light a candle. Spirit in of the highest vibration. Do this for the sign of Capricorn for today, January 20th, 2025. It's the information that one needs to know for their highest good. The general collective of Capricorn, show us. Show us, tell us. Speak to us. Somebody named John looking for a house, didn't find it. It's not the right house. That house is going to have problems. If you're looking at some like gray house, kind of big, looks sort of like farmland or something, or a big piece of property, looks like doesn't feel right for you. All right. Bluish gray, something like that. Anyway, show us for the sign of Capricorn. Okay. Show us what we need to know. All right. So, King of Swords. We need a little bit of a better view here. Clean my camera a little bit. Okay, let's see. What's happening for you? Feels like some kind of feels like some sort of feels like some sort of like agitating kind of relationship with somebody going on here. Um, Page of Swords talks about, or Princess of Swords in this deck talks about building new value systems around your life, trying to deal with things related to the past. Four of Pentacles talks about building a new foundation around your life. This is also a card that can bring up things connected to making changes around your house, especially if it has to do with um, especially if it has to do with some sort of construction. But this is the card that I use for, it could be just like moving furniture around and stuff like that. Um, but generally, the Four of Pentacles is a card that talks about holding on to money, saving money, stuff like that. Three of Wands can talk about how the ship is coming in, how money and finances are trying to come in. Threes are a number of creative energy, and it can bring up things manifesting over the course of the next period of the 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months. Right. And this could very well be about um, some sort of a conflict between two people, but it could also be um, trying to talk to somebody about trying to manifest money as well, right? Um, Dealing with Pentacles, Pentacles, Pentacles over here. Some major decisions trying to get made. Four of Wands is another card that I use for home, especially home in terms of like if you're looking to move or something like that, right? There will be clarity that comes up around here again over the course of the next period of three. There is this thing worry about money and finances, but um, because this card is showing up out here, this placement can also be um, something that is getting in your way of the manifestation as well, right? So when you're not worrying as much and really just like allowing, right? Because the judgment card over here can talk about being afraid of making a mistake, things like that. It can talk about like mistakes that got made in the past, and those things can kind of haunt you as you're trying to move forward here, right? But we are looking for things that have to do with stability. This is going to be the card that shows up in the middle. It's a card that would talk about, it'll be the central theme, we'll call it, right? So let's see. All right. So in general, this is where you are. This is where you're coming from. This is these six are where you're heading to. So um, right. So you're showing up here as yourself, right? Capricorn, Earth sign, trying to make decisions around like home stability, right? It could either be like beautifying your home, something like that, right? Making some sort of changes around things. Um, this could also be an indication if you are looking to buy property or if you're looking to sell property, because there is a card down here that can talk about a gain as well, right? Um, and it's not necessarily like a huge amount of money, but the way that this is showing up here is that you could very well be trying to make improvements around something in order to move. There's something that goes on here, whether you are trying to improve your home or if you're trying to just make some sort of improvements around yourself, around your life somehow or another. And with the Hermit card down here, this is ruled by the sign of Virgo, right? And so Virgo's saying, mantra, whatever is, I analyze. So when we're looking at that, right, we're going to say not to analyze things, right? It is, the Hermit card is a 9, and it is a card about creativity as well. So we are looking also at the Ace of Pentacles down here, which is a card about like new money, finances, things like that. We have the Six of Swords over here, which is a card that can bring up about a movement cycle, right, over the course of the next like 6 weeks. Technically, these are connected to the past, right? So this could very well be over the past 6 weeks, trying to make decisions here, dealing with things connected to the past, right? And things can be slow going here as well, right? If we're looking at these going this way, we can look at how some reason this feels like there is, it feels like there is some sort of, I want to say it feels like there is some sort of like money or some sort of like physical gain trying to come in around here, something that you're trying to manifest for. Um, you do have the World card down here as well, right? And the World card would talk about completion of a cycle. So there's an ending that goes on here around the worry, right? There's a healing that is happening connected to whatever your worry is about, right? And whatever this cycle is, because the World card does talk about completion of a cycle, right? So you're completing the cycle, and so there is a new cycle that is coming up, which is really going to last for the next like 3 years as well. And I do think that this is going to be some kind of positive thing that's trying to happen around you, especially if you are looking to be in a position where you can save money, right? Because that's really what the Four of Pentacles is about. And the Four of Pentacles is ruled by the sign of Capricorn as well, right? This is the sun. If you look at this, right? This is the sun in the sign of Capricorn, right? And we also have the sun down here, right? This is the sun in the sign of Aries. Aries is a new beginning. It's the first sign. It's the first sign of the zodiac. Aries is the sign that initiates, right? So that would put us into like the next like 3 months, right? So we are in January, February, March, April, right? That's the sign of Aries. So so I do feel like by the time we get into the sign of Aries, that see, because this feels like there has been a lot of like drama that has been going on around you. And I don't know why this is like showing up like this, right? But I really feel like around the planet there has been really like a lot of like chaos since October time period. Um like October, November, December, right? So it's like 3 months past as well, right? And this is Venus. This card is Venus in the sign of Aries, right? So you're going to see a lot of changes that are coming up around here once we get into the sign of Aries, right? Um, I don't know why this is telling me this. The Six of Swords here, this is Mercury in the sign of Aquarius. For some reason, this is telling me about like some sort of public recognition for you. Um, it definitely feels like there has been some sort of improvement that has gone on around your job. Um, the public recognition may be something that is just about maybe just something that is connected to people around your job, something like that, like a small circle of friends or small circle of like workmates, stuff like that, right? Like kudos for you, etc. Right. And but like if we're looking at where it is that you're coming from, right? It's like you're coming from this place over here where you're trying to make some major decisions around your life, right? The this is an inner calling. It's related to it's a major arcana card, so it's kind of like a spiritual calling to be doing something more, to be doing something different. Um, and like I said, we have like Pentacles, Pentacles, Pentacles here, right? So, and then we have the Four of Wands here, right? This is a card that does say completion on the bottom, right? So somehow or another, you have the World card, which is also completion, right? So, and then the Hermit card, which is a nine. So you're definitely in this place here where you are uh, completing cycles around your life in a few different ways. Right, you have like a major completion of a cycle around your life, but then you also have this completion around things that you're doing specifically related to like your job, your career, stuff like that, whatever it is that you're doing financially. Right, Spirit is saying that there is some sort of um, introspection that is going on, right? And they're talking about introspection and your place in the world and where it is that you really want to be. There's I don't know, Saturn must be doing something in your chart because Saturn is a planet of structure, it's a planet of discipline, and I feel like there's a big conversation going on in your head between yourself and spirit. So you may be having this sort of like introspection thing going on and thinking that it's just you, but it's not. It's there's a conversation that's happening here between yourself and your spirit guides and whoever your maybe your ancestors, people like that. But spirit is definitely on you and having you make decisions like is what you are doing right now worth it, right? Have you completed what you were trying to do, like, in your job, in your artistry, right? This is like this could apply even if you are an artistic type person, right? And but spirit is telling me that um they're trying to have you in a lot of ways, like get out of your shell, do something different, whether you think it is something that is going to be a hobby or something that's going to be something that you want to do as like a side gig, a side hustle, something like that, right? Because whatever this thing is, it's something that could very well turn into it's something that could very well turn into what it is that you're going to do the next phase of your life as far as like your job is concerned, right? And because the sun card here does bring up things connected to like epiphanies and things like that, right? So this is you making the decisions around where it is that you want to go as you're moving forward here, right? Um, you do have the sun in the middle. And so this is about clarity, healing, things like that, right? It's like kind of like doing your own thing. People may have been telling you, oh, you can't do that, you can't do that, right? Well, the Hermit card would say, well, I'll show you, right? This is about people who lead by experience, right? Um, and it would indicate that people are watching you, and you may not necessarily know who's watching you, but it's like it would talk about how um, it would it would talk about how you're doing something sort of out of maybe out of your comfort zone or something like that, and people looking at you being like, why is he doing that, right? Or why is she doing that, right? And that doesn't make sense, but it's like you're doing something to improve your life, something to make something of yourself and stuff like that, right? And so this is one of the ways where this public recognition is happening for you, right? Because you're doing something, it's paying off, and something that can pay off pretty well, right? Um, and if you are looking to move, change where it is that you live, right, then that is something that is also on the horizon as well, right? And that is something that could very well happen with the sun card here. Is something that could very well happen by the time we get to the summer solstice, right? By the time we get to the summer, right? But in general, this would the sun card will talk about um, there is going to be like clarity that comes up around you, right? Clarity probably by the time we get to the sign of Aries. There's going to be clarity around where it is that you're going, what it is that you're trying to do, right? Five is a card that does talk about like worry about money and finances, right? But five is also a number of change, right? So this is a card that can indicate about a change in direction as far as whatever you're doing financially, right? Um, because there's some sort of clarity that goes on here because you're recognizing the path around whatever it is that you're trying to do here. That clarity can come up because the major arcana cards are running around here, right? The three would really indicate longer periods of time, right? But it doesn't necessarily have to be, right? um, I feel like you already know inside what it is that you want to do. And it's really just like getting out of your own head and doing it. Because this makes me feel like people around you are telling you, oh, well, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't, right? Well, like this is your life, right? This is your life, not their life. And I feel like Spirit is really telling you to get unstuck, right? Because you do have the Knight of Pentacles over here, right? And the Knight of Pentacles is ruled by the sign of Taurus, and it's a slow moving energy, right? But um, you can see that these are like flowers in the background and stuff like that, right? And this card is Taurus, so it is ruled by Venus, right? Venus is about like money and finances. Venus is about like beauty, things like that, right? And you do have these pentacles down here, right? So there is like some sort of money, some sort of financial thing that like Venus is related to money and beauty, things like that. And so there is money here that is trying to happen, right? Because this row here would be things that can happen like subconsciously. This is more conscious. This is where it is what you're doing here, right? I don't know. The cards really just open windows for me, right? So sometimes I can look at just like one card and tell a whole story about what's happening with you just based around that one card, right? But when you're doing a spread, then it'll be like, oh, this card connected to this card, connected to this, and this, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be that way. So I just know that you're just trying to get into some sort of movement cycle, but it feels like very much more like an internal sort of movement cycle, and it has a lot to do with like kind of getting out of your head. It feels to me like there's a lot of noise going on up in your head, right? And it has to do with other people, right? Because this does talk about like building new value systems around your life, right? Like this this card shows this pedestal over here, right? So technically this card would talk about like building like having new pedestals, right? But pedestals are value systems, same thing like that, right? And this is the Princess of Swords. So it is some sort of education. It is some sort of education that is trying to happen, right? Um, it's a card that can bring up things connected to like battles, persistence, things like that, right? um, it's interesting because you see this card over here, this card over here, right? And so these people, these energies are sort of battling each other, right? It's kind of like, in a lot of ways, it's kind of like your higher self, your lower self, right? Like, like your guides, whatever, right? Because when I see this card, right, this is this is kind of all the noise, right? And this is somebody who's very creative, both with it's green, right? So it's physically creative as well as the yellow, which is mentally creative, is sword. So this is connected to the mind, right? And you're trying to get rid of the people here who are holding you back. Right? So I use that card like cutting through issues related to the future, this dealing with issues related to the past, right? And so because you're in this sort of battle, it's something that's keeping you stuck. But there is a lot of money that's like sitting here, right? Um, the Prince of Disc is a card that can indicate like wealth, money, finances, things like that, right? But it's like you're required, it's like you've been planting seeds around these things. And it is the things that are trying to manifest for you. You just have to kind of follow your decision, right? Like, don't be afraid of making a mistake, right? This is a judgment card. Don't be afraid of making a mistake, right? Judgments, mistakes, things like that, right? Um, but in this deck, it's called the Aeon card, right? So it's like the new Aeon, like a new life, new realm, right? So if you've been on my channel before, you know that I talk about like ascension, right? And that's a lot about what this like feels like. You're leaving like the drama, the craziness, the naysayers, the blessing blockers, whatever it is that you want to call those people, right? It's like um it really feels like you're trying to like leave all this stuff behind and move into a place in your life that's like much more peaceful, right? The sun means like better days are coming, right? Just in general. The Hermit card here, reaching epiphanies. The World card can talk about like international travel as well. If we're looking at like making changes here, the World card would indicate like indicate international travel or talking to people outside of the country. Um, yes, I see it. There are cards here that are indicating about concerns around what's happening within the country. Um, Spirit is like pointing this out to me. I'm like, I already see that. But I'm not here to do a political reading, although for you, there may be concerns around what's happening politically, worry about what's happening in this country versus going to a different country, right? So you may very well be making decisions around that. um, with this 3 up here, you could be having concerns about what's happening in like third world countries, things like that. Um, you know, who knows, right? Just looking at things that kind of make sense that Spirit's trying to point out. But like I said, I'm not trying to do a political reading here. Um, but for you, those may be things that are happening in your head for you, right? And that may be one of the things where you're worried about, right? But like I said, by the time we get to April, there will be more clarity around things, around what's going to be going on and stuff like that. So you may be waiting till like that time period in order to make decisions. Most of you are probably in the United States. Um, and I will say this that it's interesting that April is being brought up here because I belong to an astrology group. I'm learning astrology. And there was a discussion on Sunday about Trump, what's happening with him. And there could be some changes that happened in the administration and around the April time period, right? This card itself is called Power, right? So this is a card that could very well be an indication about like the White House itself too, right? So if we're going to look at it from a political standpoint, right? So, you know, things, right? So if that's something that is concerning you, right, then that would be an answer for you. Although, like I said, that's not what I came here to do. But I'm not in charge, also. All right. So, let's see. Are there any other messages here that Spirit wants to give us for the sign of Capricorn? What else does Spirit want to tell us? What else does Spirit want to tell us? For the sign of Capricorn. This is really like somebody who's not been really happy around things. Talking about getting out of your comfort zone. Right. So talks about this being a very emotional time period for you, right? And how things are being held up for you for a little while, right? But Three of Pentacles does talk about negotiation, things like that, right? Um, Another card, again, Taurus. All right. Um, right. So you have the Five of Swords up here. We'll just talk about fear of defeat, right? So it's only a card that says like for defeat, the same as the Five of Swords, right? It's a five, so it does talk about change in direction in terms of the way that you're thinking. It's like, so the Five of Swords is a card that for me would talk about, like, it would be telling you to not fight with other people, right? Because it's like it can be like a defeatist kind of an attitude as well, right? But it is a card about like, it's kind of about like losing a battle kind of a deal, right? And but it's like, you have the Two of Wands here, so it's a card that would talk about there's some angst around these things, right? Around like losing a battle, which could very well be the, you know, the whole like election thing, whatever. And not getting needs met emotionally around things, right? Negotiations, right? Kind of getting out of your comfort zone around here, right? There can be a lot of anger issues that are showing up around here, right? Feeling alone, being alone, right? Four of Cups in the middle is kind of can talk about apathy, right? Um, but you are sitting here also being like persistent, right? Even though the Seven of Wands here is a card that can bring up things about like conflict and stuff like that, right? But it's like you are sitting here trying to turn things around, right? This is a card about Jupiter. So, things are trying to go into a good direction, right? But if you are having this agitation around here, right? If you are having this fear of defeat, right? And feeling stuck and not getting needs met on an emotional level, right? Um, that those kinds of things are not really going to, those things are not really going to help you, right? It's really about kind of drawing in on your own strength here, right? Things are trying to turn around here for you. This is about Jupiter, so it is about looking at a bigger picture kind of a deal, right? And again, like with this Three of Pentacles sitting down here, right? You have a three, you have a nine up here, you have the Hermit, which is also a nine. Right? So these are all like multiples of three, right? And so threes are a number of creative energy, right? You have the Six of Swords over here, you have Three of Wands over here, right? You have the Hermit card down here again. Right. So I'm just looking at all the threes that are running around here, right? You have the Two of Wands over here, which is an indication about like letting go of one thing and moving on to another. It talks about like looking out over your realm, and the card itself is called Dominion, right? So one person trying to rule over another person, right? It's kind of talks about like it's really like a battle on the inside, right? Um, but it is a two, right? Twos are relationships, but the Two of Wands is really like an equal armed cross, right? So um it's not a like Catholic type cross, it's an equal armed cross. Equal armed cross means like balance of power, right? So it's something that you're trying to do here is to balance your own power, right? Like I said, it's dominion, one person trying to rule over another person, right? So some angst going on. So things connected to your stomach, right? So you want to kind of balance your stomach, maybe meditate, things like that, right? Take some time out, right? Don't be paying attention to the naysayers. Stop paying attention to all of the angst going on around you, right? This is about you making decisions for yourself, being persistent in the decisions that you have for yourself, right? Focus on where are you putting your energy at, right? The Knight of Wands is a card that can bring up like aggravation, things like that, but it's a card that would tell you, right? Six of Pentacles, being grateful and putting energy towards that. Put energy towards like getting out of your comfort zone. Be creative in your own life, right? Change your perspective around things. You have the Hangman card down here, right? The Hangman card is a card it's a card that can talk about being stuck, right? Hung in suspension, right? But this person is here of their own will, right? So it's a card that really talks about changing your perspective around things. It's a card that brings up the energy of Odin, right? This is why the halo is around his head. It brings up the energy of like Odin, like Buddha, people who it's like hanging upside down in order to get a different perspective. That's what this card really means. So, and then there is a gain that comes from that. Right? And this is how you're going to be turning things around in your life. So that, see, because there's like happiness here, right? There are business opportunities being presented to you, right? Wealth, financial wealth, making your mark on the world, right? Ten of Pentacles is like financial security. It is a card that is about like home, real estate, things like that, right? Not limiting yourself, right? This is again your card also, right? The Devil card is ruled by the sign of Capricorn, right? And it will talk about Capricorn going through a lot of changes. Death card, it's not people dying, but it is like death, and it's like death and rebirth. It's doors closing, new doors opening around you. Again, the Three of Wands, right? So your ship coming in over the course of the next period of three, business opportunities. This is a card also that will talk about like school education, right? It will talk about the diploma is already in your hand, right? You're going through a period of adjustment, right? But you are moving forward, right? And you are being guided, right? The guy in the back here, right? You are being guided. You're moving on to better shores out here, right? And again, Six of Swords over here on this deck, Six of Swords over here. So over the course of the next 6 weeks, you are in this period of transition. And again, Justice, this is Libra, again, Venus energy, right? It's all about like your creativity, it's all about like your love, new money coming in, right? Money, finances, creative energy, right? The Empress card is ruled by the sign of Venus. So you are in a very creative time period right now. It depends really on you tapping into that, right? Are you going to tap into whatever kind of agitation you have and letting that weigh you down? Or are you going to look on the inside and see where you are creative and see what it is that you're going to manifest for yourself, right? Do not let the world around you dictate who you are, what you're about, things like that, right? That is not going to get you anywhere. So, anyway, that is what we're going to talk about for today. So, good luck with all of that, Capricorn. Again, if you like what you hear, click like, subscribe, share, right? Find reasons to laugh. Like you could really be in this place of depression, or you could find reasons to laugh. I do a lot of like scrolling through like YouTube videos, stuff like that, and finding ways to laugh, finding reasons to be grateful about whatever it is that's going on in my life, right? Because happiness is a choice, right? So that's what they say. That's what I'm trying to prove to myself. So good luck with all of that. All right. Thank you so much for being here, Capricorn. Good luck. Thank you.